This is Hashtag History episode 100 and dose. 102. That was bad. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Leah.
All right, forgetting that I did that. Moving on. Are you ready to talk about one of my biggest fascinations ever? Ever?
Yes.
Ever. We all know, obviously, that I'm fascinated by history. Duh.
What?
Duh.
What?
We all know I'm fascinated by true crime. Did you know? Yeah, he knew
No.
that. We went to CrimeCon together.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But one of the number one things that I am most fascinated by is white-collar crime. Corruption and fraud and greed at the very highest levels of business and government is some of the most fascinating stuff in the world to me. I mean, oh my God, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I can't look away from that stuff. Bernie Madoff, Martha Stewart's insider trading thing.
Totally, yeah.
The Wells Fargo thing, Theranos.
Yeah.
Can't get enough of it.
Even Anna Zalve.
The one at the top of all of that for me has always been Enron. I've read every book about it, watched every documentary about it, listened to every podcast about it. I can't get enough of it.
Wow.
And now I'm going to talk about it. So this is really special for me. This is a really special moment for me, everyone.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, finally, here we are, more than 100 episodes later, and I'm talking about Enron. I can't wait.
I know very little.
Yay.
You're going to teach me something.
Oh, yay. I was going to ask how much you know.
I mean, like, maybe less than what your synopsis is about to be.
Less than the intro.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Truly.
So this week, we're, of course, discussing the Enron Scandal, a major accounting fraud that took place in late 2001 when Enron Corporation, who only the year prior was considered to be one of the most successful companies in the world, announced that it was posting a $638 billion loss in the third quarter. And then followed that up shortly thereafter by filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. In only a few months, the company's stock price, which at its height was $90 per share, fell to less than 26 cents per share. Along with the demise of the company also came the demise of nearly $2.1 billion in pension plans for its thousands of employees. In fact, as higher-ups in the company were selling off their stock, aware that things were going to tank soon, they were simultaneously telling lower-level employees to invest in more company stock. The SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, investigated what happened at Enron, and they found that they had been conducting shady accounting practices, such as writing future gains that had not yet been received into current income statements and transferring their bad assets into special purpose entities in order to keep them off the books. Essentially, Enron was lying about their profits, defrauding investors, their employees, and Americans as a whole. I think the quote that the Enron, the Smartest Guys in the Room documentary opened up with really sums up what we're getting into this week. It opens, quote, "It had taken Enron 16 years to go from about 10 billion of assets to about 65 billion of assets. It took them 24 days to go bankrupt," unquote. There is definitely a lot to get into here, and I am making the promise ahead of time that all of this financial and accounting practices information will not be explained in super complicated technical terms. We're going to break this all the way down to where we can all understand it enough that we can be totally zoned in to the controversy, conspiracy, and corruption of it all.
Bless you for that.
Of course. It's truly my pleasure. You have no idea. You have no idea how much I'm enjoying this right now. But before we jump into the controversy, conspiracy, and corruption, let's jump into a cocktail.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Leah.
And this is Hashtag History,
the podcast for both history nerds and history haters alike,
where we dive into history's greatest stories of controversy, conspiracy, and corruption.
First and foremost, huge shout out to this week's cocktail sponsor, which is America's Original Outlaws. This is their second of two cocktails that they bought us.
Thank you so much. That was so nice.
Yeah, thank you so much. And once again, because I am a slacker, Your husband, Alex, created this cocktail for us. Or researched it, told us what to buy.
Yes.
And we're just doing his bidding, really.
We're just doing his bidding. And this one, so this is the last of the Alex suggestion cocktails. If you were here with us last week, you heard that he also suggested that one. This one, I'll let you explain what's in it and how we did it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll say the title of it is the Cosmic Slushy Cocktail, which when he initially, picked the cocktails,
huh?
I got them mixed up because last week's
space.
episode was space alien. So I was like, oh, this one goes with this one.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, the name sucks. It's like the name doesn't line up well, the Cosmic Slushy Cocktail. But the primary ingredient in it is what the tie that he made. The primary ingredient in this cocktail is an energy drink. And since Enron was an energy company, he thought it best that we have a cocktail with an energy drink. So that's what he did. He just searched energy drink cocktails. Isn't he a genius?
He's a genius.
He's a genius.
And honestly, we can just call it the Enron. The Enron atrocity.
I love that.
The Cosmic Slushy, aka the Enron atrocity, contains vodka, triple sec, Red Bull.
Yeah.
Lime juice, and then you garnish with a lime wheel. And it's actually all blended. So you blend it with ice, we're assuming.
Yeah, they didn't tell us to do that, but also what would be the point of blending if not blending with ice?
Yeah. And the recipe comes from Thrillist.com. So
thank you.
Yeah. Credit where credit is due.
And we also acknowledge that we're both 30 years old. Mm-hmm. We are recording this on a Tuesday night at 8 p.m.
And
we're drinking an energy drink.
Yeah, this might be a terrible idea.
It might be a terrible idea, but I'm really excited about it. I have not had an energy drink in probably 10 to 15 years.
I feel like there's 2 sips of slush left at this point. Because
a lot of it's melted.
100 degrees here in Sacramento today. So.
It is. Welcome to summer.
Yeah. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I don't know. I don't really know. Energy drinks are always sweet. They taste yummy.
Yeah.
But I actually feel like, is it the vodka or the triple sec or the ice that has melted that just has kind of watered it down? It tastes...
It's the ice that is melted.
It tastes like a Red Bull mixed with water. So it's lost a lot of its flavor.
It's fine. It's fine. 4.5.
Ooh. I was going to, even with all the sounds I was making, I still was going to probably go 6. Just because it's different. An energy drink cocktail?
Yeah, that's true. Still a
4.5. All right. Well, I do love the idea, though. Energy drink, energy company. Genius.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine.
It's fine. I'll be awake all night, and that's fine.
There's only 2 ounces in each of our glasses, so...
Yeah.
Of the Red Bull.
Of the Red Bull. Hopefully not. Although if I am, I have 0 excuses to not start the research on the next episode. If this cocktail keeps me up all night, I'll be researching next week's episode.
Yeah.
Before we can talk about the Enron scandal, we have to first talk about the history of Enron as a corporation. Woo! Super exciting.
So fun.
No, this part's boring.
I always think of Zac Efron for some reason. That makes it more interesting. Pretend
the Efron
every
scandal.
time you mention Enron, I'm gonna imagine.
When you imagine him, do you imagine him?
I don't know. What do I imagine him? I imagine it being that the version of him that was on that Netflix show where he went and traveled and sat in a hot tub.
That's the one I was going to say, which is such a random thing. That's the exact one I was going to say, but then I didn't say it out loud because I'm like, that's so random.
So random. Who would think of that?
Yeah, she probably has never even heard of that show. That's exactly how I envision him too. Okay, so back to the Efron scandal. Efron was created in 1985, probably. Roughly.
Yeah.
Roughly 1985.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Enron was created in 1985 as a result of the merger of 2 gas companies, Internorth and Houston Natural Gas. Enron was an energy trading, electricity, and gas company based in Houston, Texas. Yeah, I know.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Honestly, this is the worst.
No, I'm joking.
This is the most boring paragraph in the whole episode. We're going to go through the rise of this company, but just to give you a sneak peek as to where we're headed, Enron would end up reaching number 7 on Fortune magazine's list of the top 500 U.S. companies and would be named by Fortune as America's most innovative company for 6 consecutive years.
Wow.
At its peak, Enron was posting revenue of $111 billion
This was in the 80s or maybe early 90s?
When they're posting those large numbers was late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
So they were founded in 1985 and then really realized like the fullest of their financial potential 15 to 16 years later. Along with this merger that occurred in 1986, the former CEO of Houston Natural Gas, Kenneth Lay, became the CEO and chair of Enron. I'm going to show you a picture of him just because there are going to be a lot of players in the story, and I think it'll help us stay on track if we have faces to associate with names. I'm not expecting you to be able to describe all of these men. They essentially look the same. They're all middle to later aged white men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's, I would say, a later aged white man. Balding, red tie. Red tie guy.
Not much more to say.
Yep.
When Lay became CEO of Enron, he took advantage of something pretty major going on in the energy industry at the time. In the late 1970s, the federal government deregulated energy. What does this mean? I'm not going to go too into depth with it, but I do think it's important to give a general overview of energy deregulation so we can understand how it applies and impacts what we're discussing today.
Basically, PG&E sucks.
Yeah, actually, that was the whole next sentence. But yeah, I mean, we are going to like kind of talk about PG&E. Yes.
Yeah.
So simply put, energy deregulation essentially allows for each energy company to offer their own energy at the lowest possible rate. Agencies then purchase the energy and they turn around and they sell it to their customers. Before the deregulation of energy, utility companies used to compete for customers on their own, which meant that there wasn't really a standardized, consistent way that energy was produced and transmitted. Additionally, not all utility companies were able to do all the things, generate, transmit, and distribute energy, which meant that the service could be spotty at times. It also meant that it could be more expensive as customers of these individual utility companies were responsible for paying for any major construction, renovations, transfers in energy types, and so on that these individual companies underwent. Okay, to put all of that more simply into a scenario that I think most people can understand and relate to, say you buy something off of Amazon with Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Even if that item was homemade by a small business, it is being sold via Amazon Prime, and you know that it will arrive on your doorstep in an Amazon box within 2 days.
Yes.
However, if you were to buy that same homemade item made by a small business via Etsy, for example, there's no consistent method for how or when you will receive your item, right? Like every time I order something off of Etsy, it's like surprises me in my mailbox 6 weeks later. Like, oh, I ordered something. I've forgotten.
And it's because with Etsy, you're buying directly from the company and they're responsible for shipping and labeling and getting it to you and deciding how much they're going to pay for the shipping to get it to you. Whereas Amazon is like this.
The middleman.
The middleman. This very, very large man.
Exactly.
Right in the middle.
So that's how things were before energy was deregulated. Energy used to be like Etsy. Now it's like Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay. In 1977, the federal government officially deregulated energy, meaning that each individual state would decide for itself how to get energy to its customers. This move allowed companies, such as Enron, to set fixed selling prices that they would later be able to place future bets on. One of the very influential people involved in these changes was a man named Jeffrey Skilling. So let's check out a picture of him here. Again, no expectation that you are describing these people. It's just to get a face to the name.
More of a younger or middle-aged.
And by younger, we still mean middle-aged.
White gentleman.
Yeah.
No tie.
Oh.
So we got red tie. We got red tie guy. We got no tie guy.
Yeah, you're right. It does kind of modernize the look, right? To have the open suit jacket.
Very much more cash.
Definitely. A little more tan, perhaps?
Oh, yeah. Definitely going to the tanning beds.
More
or
hair?
golfing quite a bit.
Golfing. He's got the golfing
Yeah.
tan.
Yes,
You're
he
totally
does.
right.
Yeah. Hair is still receding. But not graying yet. It looks...
At least he's coloring it or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's lost its luster. You could tell.
Yeah.
But not gray.
Yes. Originally working as one of the youngest consultants for a large consulting firm, Lay was so impressed with Skilling that he made him the head of the recently created Enron Finance Corporation. Skilling was influential in turning Enron from a gas supply company into basically a stock market for natural gas. Additionally, he introduced something called mark-to-market accounting. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay. So essentially, this is like the most important thing about Enron.
Okay.
Mark-to-market accounting is when a company can write down profits in the books on the day when a deal is signed, i.e., if the company, signs a deal for $1 million to be accumulated over the next, say, 3 years, they could write in their books that they had already made exactly that they had already made $1 million on the date of the signing of the deal, regardless of whether the deal fell through or not. Anyway, so you get the deal of this. I was going to give a more realistic example. I know you already understand this, but a more realistic example, maybe if you're still trying to figure out exactly what this mark-to-market accounting is, would be like me interviewing for a job that has like $100,000 as the annual salary. Yeah. And upon getting the job, regardless of whether I stay at that job, regardless of whether they keep me at that job, I have already put on my books that I make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
That makes me a much more desirable person to partner with, a much more desirable person to bet on. And in the case of Enron, this meant that investors were led to believe the profits of this company were much, much greater than what they actually were.
This is shady as
Exactly. It's shady and it sounds crazy, but the Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, approved this accounting method for Enron in 1992, making Enron the first non-financial company to use this accounting method.
That's just so... No.
It's asking for trouble.
Yeah. That it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
I think it does make a bit of sense to me if you're using mark-to-market accounting ethically, where like,
sure.
Ethically, like we sign a deal, I'm going to come do your lawn for $50 a month for the next 2 years. And you trust me, you believe me, $50. So I can write in my books like, okay, I'm for sure going to make $50 for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
In an ethical way, like, yeah, because I'm going to follow through. I'm going to do it every month. But there are those that take advantage of the system and...
Well, it's just... Yeah, in that scenario, sure. Yeah, if you're doing it ethically, if it's on a small scale like that. But on this, it's just... I can't see it ever being ethical because you're literally claiming you have $1 million when really you've actually only maybe collected $50,000 from the company you're doing business with. And now not only are you reaping the benefits of that and getting people to invest because of that, but like also your worth is higher than it actually is.
Exactly. And we're going to get into this more later, but even when these deals fall through, so they're not making $1 million on this one deal, doesn't matter because if they are already posting $1 million on their books, they're a more desirable company to work with, partner with, bet on. So they have that money from investors, more than that money from investors. So they're not, a real life example. If I don't come over to your house and mow your lawn or whatever I said I was doing, I'm not getting that $50 that month.
Yeah.
But if I'm already posting it and other people know, like I'm already getting so much money from investors anyway, that if I don't make that $50 because I fell through on our deal, it doesn't matter. I already have all these other investors that saw what my books look like.
Yeah, all of my neighbors saw that you said you mow my lawn for $50 a month. And so now you do already make $50 a month from them paying you to mow their lawns.
So it doesn't even matter that the legitimate deal fell through.
Yeah.
Because that money is still coming in
But
anyway.
Is Enron still, if those deals fall through, do they say that? That's my question.
No.
Yeah, see.
No. They've already posted like in their financial books.
That's what makes
made
zero sense to me.
They've already pledged that money. Or it's donated that money.
Pledged.
Yes. Hey everyone, we are so excited to share with you about Macy's Wine Shop. Yes, it is that Macy's. Macy's has launched their very own wine shop, which includes full-size, delicious wines curated by their experts coming from renowned wine regions, which include our home state of California and beyond. You can select exactly what type of wine you are looking for. Do you love reds? Do you love whites? Maybe a little bit of both? You can make these personalized selections quickly and easily through the Macy's Wine Shop. What makes Macy's Wine Shop better than any other online wine club is that they deliver quality wines at unmatched price points. all within 1 to 3 business days. Seriously, I ordered my wine on a Monday and had already received them by that following Wednesday. And with our link, you get $50 off a 6-bottle box of Macy's award-winning wines, which is a $95 retail value. Head to the show notes of this episode to access the discount code, or you can head to our Instagram to find the link in our bio. Cheers! Business was absolutely booming for Enron throughout the 1990s. The company expanded beyond the gas industry as it moved more into electricity, water, paper, broadband, even weather. Enron began trading weather futures, with people essentially betting on what future weather would be.
Well, that's stupid.
Enron expanded out to other countries, even establishing power plants in Indonesia, India, and the Philippines. By the end of the 90s, Enron had increased its stock by over 300%, with its stock priced at nearly $90 per share. Enron jumped on the dot-com wave and established an online trading division called Enron Online, which was conducting trades of over $2 billion a day. And like I shared in the intro, Enron would reach number 7 on Fortune magazine's list of the top 500 U.S. companies and would be named by Fortune as America's most innovative company for 6 consecutive years. I also think, I'm not going to mention this again later, so it's not necessarily tied to the story or necessarily relevant, but I do think it's worth noting that Enron also had some really, really strong political connections.
Of course.
Enron was based in Texas, like I shared earlier. CEO Kenneth Lay had a close personal relationship with a particular former Texas governor, George W. Bush. Mm-hmm. In fact, Enron would be one of the largest donors to Bush's political campaign, and Bush would refer to Lay as Kenny Boy.
Mm-hmm. They were golf buddies.
As for being an employee of Enron, it could be a pretty mixed experience with equal advantages and disadvantages. As far as advantages go, Enron employees had access to a company gym, merit-based bonuses that had no limit, competitive salaries, often free food, and a really generous 401k. What are you laughing about?
I'm just laughing that the first one was like, you get a company gym.
I would say my current employer is the only place I've ever where there was like a treadmill on site. Oh yeah,
no, I don't. I mean, I guess I technically have access to a gym, but I don't.
I think that's a perk. And they had like free food all the time.
Yeah. No, free food. That is a perk.
You were making a lot of money.
You have to be, yeah.
A lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
The disadvantages, however, were pretty large. For one, it was not uncommon for employees to work upwards of 18 hours a day. Skilling also established a rather tough ranking system in which an employee would be ranked from a 1 to a 5.
Ooh.
The closer you got to 5, the more likely you were to get fired.
Yeah.
And reaching a 1 was not based on being liked or being a team player or anything like that. The only way you really reached top employee success was by how much profit you produced. Enron would terminate roughly 15% of its employees each year.
Yikes.
This led to a highly competitive and sometimes hostile work environment where no one trusted anyone.
Yeah, there's no like office friendships there.
Definitely not. It really was like high school where everyone was competing to be the most popular guy on the trading floor and to be liked by the most popular guy in the business, Skilling. For example, when Skilling got LASIK eye surgery, everyone got LASIK eye surgery. It was kind of like a weird culty thing.
Yeah.
Further, Skilling had this like daredevil kind of personality, and it created this hyper masculine macho man kind of vibe in the office. Skilling was a very risky person, not only in business, but also in his personal life. He and the guys at Enron would take annual like daredevil type trips. One particular trip was in Baja, in which they rode dirt bikes in such a way that it led to injury to several of his coworkers. It was a very weird, like macho bro type environment. One particular executive at Enron, Lou Pai, was exceptionally odd. He had a weird fascination with strippers and would visit strip clubs every single night after work. If a meeting was running long, he would bring the meeting with him to the strip club. Or in some cases, he would even bring the strippers back to the office with him to keep the party going there late into the evening.
Oh, that reminds me of the Wolf of Wall Street.
That's what I thought you were about to say.
Ugh.
Very Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Timing is everything, though, because when Pai left Enron in 2001, before the eventual fall of the company, he would net approximately $200 million, all while leaving behind him millions in debt for the company.
Yep.
He divorced his wife, married his girlfriend, who was one of the strippers at the club that he frequented, and he took his riches to Colorado with him, where he would become the second largest landowner there.
I mean,
got out at the right time.
Yep.
But back to Enron. Under Skilling's direction, he hired only the smartest and most educated traders from the very top MBA schools in the country.
And they were all okay with working for a company that was clearly hemorrhaging, or maybe not hemorrhaging money, but yeah, okay, yep. She's doing the dollar money sign.
When you're higher up in the company, pocketing millions.
Yeah.
Millions.
Yeah.
And when you're lower level staff, you don't know that.
Yeah.
You're still making good money. It's still a competitive salary. You don't know the shadiness that's going on. You just know that you're the number 7 company in the world. One such recruit that Skilling brought on was a man from Kellogg MBA. It was a man named Andrew Fastow. So let's check out a picture of Andy here.
Oh, no, I would argue he's the most attractive of them.
Because he has all his hair.
He has all his hair. It is graying, but it's like that nice salt and pepper look.
And his face is still younger, right? He looks like one of those guys that maybe grayed early on, but still has a younger looking face. Like Max, exactly like Max from Catfish.
Yep. Other than that, nondescript white guy.
Yep. It looks like he works in corporate America.
Yes. In the 90s. Mm-hmm. Late 90s.
When hired in 1990, Fastow was only 29 years old. By 1998, he was made the chief financial officer of the company. To put it simply, Fastow was responsible for overseeing the company's finances and creating partnerships and generating investments. He's going to come up a lot later, though.
Yeah.
As far as the outside world knew at this point, Enron was doing pretty damn well. So when did all of this start crumbling down? We're going to back things up a touch to a time before Fastow or even Skilling were at Enron, because problems existed long before that. In 1987, 2 of Enron's top executives, the president of oil trading and the treasurer, were found guilty of fraud and of filing false tax returns. These 2 executives were falsifying documents, working with offshore banking accounts, and gambling on the price of oil. By way of these fraudulent activities, they were making Enron and themselves millions and millions of dollars. And just so you can really get a grasp of the ridiculousness of all this and really just their careless attitude, we're going to check out a picture here of the name of one of these offshore accounts that they created.
Oh, God. Given to Mr. M. Yass. Yes.
Yes, Queen. Does Mr. M. Yass, if you were to like maybe remove a period?
Mr. My Ass.
Mr. My Ass.
Mr. My Ass. Mm-hmm. That's really immature and stupid.
It's super immature. They literally named an offshore account Mr. My Ass.
Like you said, they're a bunch of pros.
Yes. After an anonymous tip and auditors came in to do an investigation, Ken Lay didn't change a thing. These executives that had clearly been involved in fraud were not disciplined. Rather, Lay told them to, quote, "Please keep making us millions," unquote. 2 months later, when these 2 executives had traded nearly all of Enron's assets and almost completely bankrupt the company, Lay feigned shock as though he had no idea these guys had been doing this all along. Despite these rough and foreshadowing beginnings, Enron made a bounce back with the hiring of Skilling, the adoption of the mark-to-market accounting practice, the hiring of Fastow, and the success that they saw in the dot-com boom. Something else that was particularly advantageous to Enron was the use of special purpose entities, or SPEs. Now, it isn't unusual for companies to use SPEs, but the way that Enron used them certainly was. So for those that are unfamiliar, SPEs are limited companies, limited liability companies, or limited partnerships that have a narrow goal. I'm going to give an example here. This is something I've worked in the legal field a long time. This is something I've helped put together before with businesses and with LLCs before. So when I say that, I'm not giving legal advice here whatsoever. So don't take this as legal
advice. Do you legally have to say that?
I legally have to share that this is not legal advice. For one, because I'm not an attorney.
Yes.
And two, because I'm not sharing the flip side, the disadvantages to doing what I'm about to explain. I'm just telling you the
like why they would do it. Yeah.
And why they would do it. Yeah. So here's kind of a simpler example that I think most of us can understand and relate to. Let's say that you put your home into a limited liability company, an LLC. If something happens at your home, so say someone trips over a crack in the sidewalk right outside your house, they break their neck, and then they sue you for damages because the accident occurred on your property, you have separated your assets by putting your home in the LLC rather than having it attached to your personal name.
Mm-hmm.
If the home is attached to your personal name, the claimant can come after you and all of your assets, your home, your car, your bank account, your retirement fund. All of
everything.
It, everything. Setting up a limited company and placing certain assets within it affords you certain protections. Companies do this kind of stuff all the time. And it can be a wise business move to ensure that if your company is ever sued, you won't lose everything.
Okay.
So how was Enron using these SPEs to their advantage? Enron was using these SPEs or shell companies to hide away their debt. They were placing their debt in these hundreds of SPEs and not disclosing them to investors. Because these were all separate legal entities, they did not have to get reported out in Enron's financial books. It's also important to note that SPEs cannot be owned by the parent company. They are limited partnerships with other companies. But Fasto himself owned many of these SPEs and took full advantage of this conflict of interest. With SPEs that he had established with weird names like Chuco, Jedi, Raptor, and LJM, Fasto was able to be on both sides of the coin. With every transaction, he was looking out for the best interest of Enron or the best interest of these SPEs. Either way, he won. Not only did he get Skilling, Lay, and the whole Enron board to sign off on this, he also managed to get 96 individual bankers to invest in LJM as well. Not including his salary and stocks, it is estimated that from the LJM account alone, Fasto pocketed somewhere between $30 and $45 million. So it's not like unusual for companies to use SPEs. They use them all the time.
Yeah.
Individual people, a lot of people I know have LLCs because they put certain assets into their LLCs. Lots of businesses do it too. Not unusual. It's the way that they were doing it. It's that they were not only just like putting assets in those,
but also their debts.
They were hiding their debts in them, and then they didn't have to get reported out on Enron's financial books because they were separate legal entities.
Yeah.
Enron was doing a ton of other shady things at this time, involving even our home state of California. Do you recall the California energy crisis of 2000, 2001?
Like vaguely.
We were babies, so.
Yeah. I mean, I was in 4th grade. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't remember this, but these were the rolling blackouts that we in California were experiencing that ultimately were a contributor to the recall of Governor Gray Davis and why we ended up with
Arnold
Schwarzenegger as governor.
The governor.
To put it really simply, following the deregulation of energy in California, the state faced a major electricity crisis as a result of the delays in setting up new power plants, drought, and, well, corruption. Enron, in particular, intentionally moved electricity out of the state, calling power plants and telling them to shut down for hours until the demand for electricity, and therefore the price of electricity, became astronomical. Then and only then would they move the electricity back in. This energy crisis would end up costing California $30 million. Enron would continue to deny their involvement in the crisis, however. Skilling said of the crisis, in an incredibly insensitive way, might I add, quote, "You know what the difference is between the state of California and the Titanic? At least when the Titanic went down, the lights were on." Unquote.
Ooh.
Gross.
Really gross.
Another shady deal that Enron was involved in was in India. If you'll recall earlier in the episode, I mentioned that Enron had established a power plant there.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, India would not be able to afford the power that Enron produced.
Yeah.
When this deal fell through, Enron still wrote the future profits into their books and paid out management, giving them bonuses and raises on these fake profits.
That's so
Awful.
It's not just awful. I just don't understand how the they got away with it for so long.
For so long. Enron was, of course, involved in a dozen other corrupt things at this time, but I'm only going to highlight one more. In July of 2000, Enron signed a 20-year deal with Blockbuster Video. But I'm not really sure what that means. Blockbuster? I personally have never heard of it.
I miss it.
Me too.
I used to go on like Fridays.
I would go on Saturdays.
It was Friday nights on the way home from school. Originally, it started as 49er Video, but then our 49er Video shut down. Mm-hmm. So then it was Blockbuster, and I would
Never Hollywood?
Oh, and sometimes Hollywood, yeah. Actually, now that you said that, it was mostly Hollywood. Mm-hmm. But then Blockbuster was the last holdout. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Anyways, we would go. We would be allowed to pick one snack that we could bring. And then I would usually get a movie, and my brother would usually get a video game.
I love it.
Because that's how you would get video games, is you would rent them.
I remember similar. It was every Saturday night. We would pick up Papa Murphy's Pizza. Right across the way was Blockbuster, but I am one of 6 siblings, so it was like I got a chance to pick a movie every 6 weeks.
Yes, exactly
what it was.
Yeah.
And it always felt like when it was finally your turn, like if you picked out a really shitty movie, there was like a lot of pressure, right? Like the whole family was watching the movie, and it was like, this sucked. Thank you very much. And of course, what I wanted to watch was like Crossroads with Britney Spears.
Yeah,
that's what I was picking up. But
what's wrong with that?
No one. Well, what's wrong with it is no one else wanted to watch it. That's what was wrong with it.
I'm joking.
Well, yeah,
Crossroads is
there's so much wrong with it. It's one of the worst movies of all time.
But also one of the greatest.
Anyway, speaking of Blockbuster, Enron signed this 20-year deal with them in which Enron agreed to provide on-demand entertainment. Enron stock soared 34% in just 2 days as a result of this deal.
What the kind of entertainment is Enron providing?
Exactly. Okay. Enron was not actually able to follow through on the deal as a result of simply not being able to get the technology to work. They could not figure it out.
Yeah.
Even after Blockbuster withdrew from the deal, Enron's mark-to-market accounting allowed for the company to claim millions on their books for a deal that never happened.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But if we think of other corporate crime, we think of Theranos.
Yeah.
Similarly, the deal that they had with Walgreens, the deal they had with Walgreens, they were faking the technology that whole time too.
Yeah.
They also could not get the technology to do what they deliver what they said they were going to deliver, but they still signed this deal. They were able to swindle a major American company.
Yeah, but I feel like, and I'm not saying like Theranos is okay or anything they were doing is okay at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like this is different in the sense that like they were literally allowed to say, listen, you are going to pay me $100 for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you're like, this, I'm not going to pay you $100 for 5 years. I still say, well, I got $500.
Yes.
I have $500.
In February of 2001, Skilling took over as CEO while Lay remained as chairman. And this is when it appears that things took a turn for the worse. Many reported noticing Skilling showing up to work looking like shit. Red-eyed, unshaven, and overall behaving super unprofessionally. In March of that year, Bethany McLean of Fortune magazine was writing an article about Enron after looking over their annual financial report herself and being confused by the, quote, strange transactions, erratic cash flow, and huge debt, unquote, that she saw. She called over to Enron and she spoke to Skilling, asking him rather simply, quote, how does Enron make its money? Unquote. Skilling was unable to answer her question.
That doesn't look good.
No, like, how do you make money?
Like, I'm the CEO and I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. Instead, what he did, he called her unethical and told her that if she had actually done her homework, she would know the answer. He told her he was unable to provide her with a proper answer because he himself was not an accountant.
You're the CEO.
Well, that's the same for me. Like, I work for a larger healthcare organization here in California. I work in the legal office. I can tell you how we as a healthcare organization make money, generally speaking, how we make money in the types of transactions that we have and do, even though I have nothing to do with accounting. I don't have anything to do with the finances we bring in. A few days later, McLean met with CFO Andy Fasto and other Enron accountants to get the answers to her questions. After 3 hours of going over documents, she knew nothing more than what she had already known when she first went in. Interestingly, though, as she was leaving the meeting, Fasto turned to her and said, quote, "I don't care what you say about the company. Just don't make me look bad." Unquote.
Nice.
Loyalty. McLean would write her article about Enron titled, "Is Enron Overpriced?" in which she would expose not only Enron, but Wall Street traders and Arthur Andersen, the accounting firm that managed Enron's financing, for all of the financial corruption that she had uncovered. Pressure was certainly on for the company. On a call in April of that year, Skilling did something exceptionally unprofessional. I actually have the audio here for us to listen to. So to give some background really quickly before we listen to it, this was a call between Skilling, other Enron employees, and outside analysts that were questioning Enron as to why they would not release a balance sheet with their earnings statements, which is not an unusual request to make of a giant corporation. Okay, so let's listen to it now. The first voice that you hear is the analyst, and then the response is Skilling.
You're the only financial institution that can't produce a balance sheet or a cash flow statement with their earnings.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Asshole.
And then what was this interview? It was on a phone call with like investors or something?
Yeah, just analysts that were writing about Enron and just asking, like, every other large corporation is able to produce. I mean, we're just asking for a balance sheet with earnings statements. That's not an unusual request.
Yeah.
And yeah, he
called him an asshole.
Thanks
for calling me out, bro.
Like, this behavior may not have been particularly uncommon behind closed doors.
Totally.
But for the CEO of a major corporation to say something like that on a phone call with analysts, it's highly unusual.
Yeah.
Things continued to go downhill from there. In August of that year, Skilling would surprise the company and investors by announcing his resignation as CEO only 6 months after taking on the position. He said it was for personal reasons, but I think we all know in hindsight why he made this decision. In the months before his resignation, he sold hundreds of thousands of his shares of Enron stock, totaling approximately $33 million. Lay would return as CEO and assure all of the employees that everything was fine. In fact, not only were things fine, they were great, and he encouraged his staff to continue to buy more shares of the company and to contribute more to their 401ks. The day after Lay would take over as CEO, Sharon Watkins, the vice president for corporate development who had recently transferred to work under Fasto, she sent Lay an anonymous letter in which she told him how concerned she was about the company surviving. She said that under Fasto, she had discovered the company's corrupt accounting practices. Not long after sending this letter, she also personally met with Lay and gave him a 6-page letter with all of her concerns about the company's fraudulent accounting. Lay told her that he would have the company's law firm look over the letter, although this was obviously a conflict of interest, and unsurprisingly, the law firm agreed that Enron had done nothing wrong since their accounting firm, Arthur Andersen, had signed off on all of it. In October, Enron would report a $638 million loss for the third quarter, shocking investors and the public as a whole. October of 2001 was the first time the company had reported any loss whatsoever in 4 years. At the same time, the Wall Street Journal was exposing Fasto's shady limited partnerships. Lay would tell Enron employees that Fasto had done nothing wrong and he had every confidence in him, only to fire him the very next day. Mm-hmm. The SEC launched a full-on investigation into Enron and these limited partnerships. And immediately thereafter, Arthur Andersen began destroying more than 1 ton in records that very day.
Yeah.
Enron's stock would plummet from where it had been only a few months prior at $90 per share to less than $1 per share. And on December 2nd, 2001, Enron officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. As for the employees, they were completely kept in the dark. At 9:30 a.m. on the day that the company filed bankruptcy, they were suddenly told that they had 30 minutes to get their shit together and to leave. It's honestly so devastating for the Enron employees. They were locked out of their personal financial accounts for several days, not allowing them the opportunity to sell off their stock as the price per share was tanking. One employee told a story of having about $348,000 in stock before the crash. After the crash, he was able to sell the stock for only $1,200.
And I wonder how much he actually invested, like how much
he himself
actually lost in that. I'm sure it was a ton.
Yes. Ultimately, some 20,000 people would lose their jobs as a result of the fall of Enron. In 2004, these 20,000 former employees would win a class action lawsuit that awarded them a total of $85 million, which translates to little more than $3,000 per person. Meanwhile, in the months leading up to the fall, insiders and executives sold off billions in their stocks. Lay, in particular, would earn about $300 million in compensation and stocks in just his last 4 years with the company. I'm going to kind of expedite the aftermath of this crash for the executives because who cares?
Yeah.
Really, it's the ground level people that my heart goes out to.
Totally.
The people that believed in this company, that trusted this company.
That worked 18-hour days for this company.
Yes. That were told by the executives that everything was fine. They were told by the executives to invest their life savings in shares only to be defrauded. But as for the consequences for the executives, in 2006, Skilling was convicted of conspiracy and fraud and sentenced to more than 24 years in prison. He would only serve 12. Lay was also charged with conspiracy and fraud and faced more than 45 years in prison, but passed away before sentencing. Fasto pled guilty and agreed to testify against Enron executives, which meant that he was only sentenced to 6 years in prison. He was released in 2011. Skilling has also since been released as recently as 2019 and has returned to Houston, where he is working with a startup energy company.
Why? That's not a good idea.
Naturally, the accounting firm that had signed off on all of Enron's fraudulent practices, Arthur Andersen, also faced consequences. The firm was found guilty of shredding evidence, and ultimately they lost their license to practice as certified public accountants in the United States.
Good.
The only executive I will discuss in more of a sympathetic light is that of John Clifford Baxter, or as he was known, Cliff. 7 months before the collapse of Enron, he resigned from the company. Allegedly, he had told Skilling and other executives that he had seen the financial corruption and was worried about it. He also agreed to testify before Congress about the Enron scandal after all had been exposed. However, before he could do so, he drove his Mercedes approximately half a mile from his home, parked the car, and ended his life with a gun. A note that was found by his wife said, in part, quote, "I have always tried to do the right thing, but where there was once great pride, now is gone," unquote. We cannot confidently say that his death was related to Enron, but we do know that he was very distressed by it and that his death came one day after the hearing into the scandal had begun.
Mm-hmm.
The lasting legacy of Enron, other than a scandalous story of corrupt greed that we continue to tell decades later, was the adoption of a number of new regulations in financial reporting. The primary one was the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which essentially, amongst a number of things, prohibits conflicts of interest and also imposes penalties on a company for fabricating their records.
Good.
So now you know all the things about Enron. In fact, you know 70% of the things about Enron. There's so much that didn't end up in this episode, or we would be here forever.
Well, thank you for sharing. It's one of those things that I've heard about, didn't really know any of the details whatsoever.
It just makes it more ridiculous, I guess. But one of the main reasons why I have put off covering this for so long is because there are all those kind of complicated and intricate details.
Yeah.
But as I was doing my research, the more I realized you almost don't have you don't have to understand how one bets on futures, how one bets on the weather to know essentially just that it was corrupt.
Yeah.
You don't have to know exactly how SPEs work and how you hide debt in separate legal entities and things like that to understand that what they were doing was wrong, fraudulent, corrupt, and that they not only defrauded investors, Americans as a whole, but the people that were working 18-hour days for them.
Yeah, that's where the real travesty
is. It is. I can't imagine being someone that works so hard. Like you're working in what I know was a very competitive, sometimes hostile work environment, but you're going home and you're telling your family like, but the day I retire, we're set. Imagine buying homes, buying cars, preparing to send their kids off to college, unable to do any of that.
Yeah.
It's really, really devastating.
Mm-hmm.
That's Enron.
Yeah. You did a great job of dumbing it down.
Thank you.
I really liked your analogies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The Amazon one mostly?
Yeah, mostly that one.
Because I was like, I can relate. I can relate. Etsy, love supporting a small business.
Totally.
Could you also do 2-day shipping? Please and thank you. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of #History.
We will share the pictures of these old white guys that we discussed on the episode to our Instagram, and all sources used to put together the episode can be found on our website, which is #history-pod.com.
Subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you use. Share about us with your family and friends. And please give us a rate and review on whatever podcast platform you use. We love seeing those ratings and those reviews, assuming they're good ones. We love seeing them.
Be sure to check us out on Instagram at #history_podcast. And we're also on TikTok like once...
Blue Moon.
So check us out on there. We're at #history, all one word.
If you want to be entertained once every 6 weeks.
That's
once every
generous.
16 weeks.
Okay, that's more real.
And we would love it so much if you came over and joined us on Patreon. It's only $1 a month to directly support our books and booze supply. If you join our Patreon, you also get access to behind-the-scenes content, weekly #Hangout episodes, and automatic 15% off all merchandise, and we mail you cards and stickers.
Sure do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Nailed it.
Related entry. Now, originally working as one of the youngest... We're so mean, right?
Spent 5 minutes describing a businessman from the 1990s.
Did you ever imagine it?
No. What are we doing?
Hey, hello, Mr. No Tie Guy. He's the most attractive one out of all of them.
I believe it.
Oh my god. It was either that picture of his or his mugshot, so I went with that one.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Price.
The price of oil. The price of oil.
Okay.
My peak was right around blue tie guy.
And now it's down.
And now it's going down.
Price of oil.
The price of oil.
Okay. I don't know why I even said that.
That hurt a number of decades later. You.
But it is right. I know. When I wrote that, I was like, a decade later.
No.
2 decades later.
Yeah.
A number of decades later.
Yeah.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
Site, which is #history. #history-pod.com.
I was expecting you to do com, because each time you got like further in the word.
.com.